this is Dominic, wedding DJ.
And this is Serena, wedding planner.
And together we are the Wedding Duo. We are here to talk all things weddings.
Planning a wedding can be stressful, but we are here to help.
So before you say, that's it, we're going to Vegas, don't go to Vegas.
Let's have some fun.
Join us as we answer your wedding questions and help navigate planning one of the biggest days of your life with
the Wedding Duo.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back again to whatever episode of our podcast is, the Wedding Duo podcast. Here we are.
We are in the 40s somewhere, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we've had some really great episodes lately. The last one we did was on tipping. It hasn't released yet, so I'm excited to see the response to that. We had some good interviews, but today we're taking a little different turn.
Indeed.
We thought we would chat with you all about what it's like to be married and run a business together.
Run! Get out while you still can. No, just kidding.
No, I mean, a little history about us, some tips about compatibility and what it means to be a husband and wife team in life and then in business.
And you kind of mentioned something as we were talking about, what are we talking about today? And then you would pitch this idea and I go, do people want to hear that? But I guess we've got, for those of you that follow along, if you want to know a little bit more about us, this is the episode for you. But you mentioned about just finding your lane and your roles in a relationship. And obviously we work together as well. So we're 24/7. Mm-hmm. There's no escape. But it's not everybody can work together or should work together. But those of you out there that are engaged are going to be living together and coexisting together. So there you go.
Exactly. And I think it starts there, right? For those of you who are embarking on this marriage journey, a lot can be said for, having good, meaningful conversations up front about what's important to you in the future, in life, all those things, right? I think communication is one of the hardest parts of a relationship. And during your wedding planning, and then even subsequently, whether you work together or not, finding the ways that work for you to communicate is huge, right? Knowing your partner, what ticks them off, what gets them to open up, all those things are so important.
Huh? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Totally had that. I was just waiting for you to pause to put that in there. I even wore I'm going to stand up for those of you watching on YouTube. I wore my shirt. Husband, Dad, DJ Legend. You bought this shirt for me. And it's funny that husband is the top.
Mm-hmm.
If I was in fact a legend, I would probably lead with that. I don't know, but.
If you're married to me, you should lead with husband.
Well, you bought the shirt, so there was no doubt that the top tick was going to be husband. I enjoy being your husband.
And I enjoy being your wife. Still, right? So we've been together 10 years and we had kind of a different process. We went a little backwards. When we first met, I had a 1-year-old and
9 months, actually.
Yeah. She wasn't quite 1 yet. You're right. And so again, we started off differently. There was always something going on in our relationship, I think, from the get.
I met Lily on our first date.
Yes. Do you hear that? He met my daughter on our first date. Not intentionally.
Yeah, not intentionally. We went to sushi, and the friend of your family that was watching Lily mysteriously, coincidentally, was shopping 3 doors down from where we were, which is, there's no way that was a coincidence. She was absolutely
that's what she
spying.
said.
Oh my God, there's no way.
She wasn't spying.
She was absolutely, I guarantee she walked by staring in. There they are.
With the baby?
Them. Yeah. Lily was 9 months. She was in a stroller. Anyway, so she said, oh, they're right here. And I go, oh, well, let's go see them. And you were like, no, that's weird. And I go,
okay, because let's back up. I did not feel super comfortable introducing him right away to my daughter because he's the first person I had dated in a while. Obviously, I had been preoccupied with my child. But so he was like, let's go meet her. And I was like, really? Is this what we're doing?
I like kids. But anyway, I went down there and your friend, you were talking to
her husband.
Her husband was there too.
Yeah.
You were over there on the other side of the room. She hands me Lily. Actually, maybe I asked to hold Lily. So I'm holding Lily and immediately she spits up on my jeans.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lily was like, this one will do. I'm marking my territory. So she spits up on me. And your friend grabs she's mortified. She grabs a tissue and she kneels down. I'm on a bench this high, like a bar stool holding Lily. And she kneels down in front of me with the tissue wiping my leg, and you turn around and go, "What in God's name is going on?"
It was so weird. I turned around and she was like kneeling in front of him, wiping his pants.
Okay, it wasn't awkward until you started doing this. Now it's a little awkward. Anyway.
Yeah, holding my child, and I was like, "This is doomed." Yeah, but it's not. It's not.
Well,
doomed.
it was nice meeting you, Dominic, because I'll never see you again. I'm like, I'm all in on this stuff. So
right. So that's a little bit of our origin story where it all started. And when I say that we there's always been something going on in our relationship. I mean, I do mean it. Like it was not long after that we got pregnant with our our son, our second child. Right. We changed jobs a little bit. We were in the event industry the whole time while we were in California, but then we decided to move to Texas for a number of reasons.
And we each had a big wedding.
We did.
Just not to each other.
Just not to each other.
So we had a swing and a miss for each of us. And
previously, correct.
Yeah. And I know it's not ideal, but being married before helped with this,
It did.
This marriage. But it's no different than being in any relationship. For those of you that have dated, it's like it's a process. You get to know what you like, what you don't like, what you're looking for in a person, but.
And I think what I'm trying to compare, the stress level to is we had kids before we actually even got married. And we moved, we changed jobs, we started a business, right? All these things
halfway across the country.
But all those things have contributed to our life and our strength together as a team. We really understand what each person is good at and try to support them in that, right? Sometimes it can be hard, especially if you've got a strong personality, to take a step back, to know when it's time to say, you know what, I'm going to let them go with this. I'm just going to be in the background and I'm going to be their cheerleader, right? But that's important.
Was that directed at anyone in particular in this conversation?
No, you do a good job of it. You know when to say, hey, this is her lane. I'm going to step back and I'm going to let her make these decisions.
Yeah. And I think all of you out there listening, I'm sure have, if you're obviously if you're engaged, or if you're married yourself, if you're a mom or dad, but if you're the bride or the groom listening, I mean, in your relationship, you start to find out it's part of the process when you get to know somebody is you just get to know them. What are they good at? What are their comfort zones? What makes them uncomfortable?
Yep.
And once you become a team, it really starts to solidify. I think, people can change, but there's still things that you're just born being good at and born that make you uncomfortable,
Right. And I think wedding planning in general is a good test for a marriage.
A couple?
And a
going
couple.
through it? Yeah. I thought you meant us. And I go, well, that's what we do for a living. Oh, no.
No.
You mean all of you. Yes.
Yeah. Everyone listening that is going through this wedding planning process.
Because it's stressful.
It is stressful.
On the couple. Yeah.
And you're having to make big decisions. There's money involved, right? That's all part of marriage.
Newsflash. There's money.
Yeah. So this is a good opportunity, I think, for all the couples out there to practice communication, to practice being kind to each other. I think that's helpful.
Some give and take, right? Because that's Lord. No, first of all, we're not trained marriage counselors.
We've just been married.
Been married. We have kids. We've been through it. We talk to couples all the time, and not about are you sure about this? I mean, we never would say that, of course, but we just see it. We see the process, and we're there on this road, and we know when we talk to couples. Sometimes they're just they're just beside themselves. They don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's this bickering between mothers-in-laws and your mom and the families, and you see all of it, and it's all hard, and it can be a process to get to that altar and get to that day.
Yeah.
But it's part of, I think it's a time for the couple really to start to become a team, because it's at some point you're not living with your folks anymore,
right.
Even though sometimes it's hard to let go as a parent. It's going to be hard for me, Lord knows someday,
yes.
But it's a process, leave the nest. And whether you're 22 or 42, it's still a process if you're more of an individual and then now you're now I'm a team. Now we're a couple, and you go through life as a team.
Right. And something that has helped us, just a little tidbit about the way we operate is, I know on a day-to-day basis, and our employees can probably attest to this, we bicker, right? Things come up.
We absolutely do not ever bicker. I told you earlier,
No,
kidding.
I mean, things come up. We don't always agree. And a lot of times it's business decisions. Sometimes it's personal, whatever it is.
There are times where I have to say, no, I'm wearing my business hat right now.
Yeah,
You can't get mad at me
it's
as
true.
a husband because I'm your business partner at this point.
Yeah, because those lines get blurred. They can very, very easily.
Yeah.
And something that we've learned to do is pick our battles, right? Like what is worth taking a deeper dive into, right? Like there's a certain amount of letting go of the little stuff and really knowing when there needs to be more of a conversation. And I think this applies again to wedding planning too, right? Like if something is really important to your partner, okay, you're going through the planning process and your partner really wants beer donkeys. Like they've dreamt their whole life of having the donkeys.
Beer burros
with
is
the
the
beer.
correct term. But anyway.
I like calling them beer donkeys. Okay.
Okay.
See, exactly. You just let me do that.
That's not a battle I'm ready to go down.
Exactly. And so it's like, maybe that's going to make them super happy, right?
Oh my gosh. Can I tell you one of my favorite stories?
Okay, go ahead.
It was, God, it has to be 15 years ago. It was I was very new DJ. And I remember sitting down with this couple and we're going over their music. And I said, okay, so what's your first dance? We got to that part in the planning.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks at him and he had this look on his face like, come on, like he knew this question was coming. She goes, well, and he goes, come on, babe. That's just the one. It was that thing. It was the beer burros or the beer donkeys, if you so choose. That was his beer donkey, the first dance. And he wanted, take you for a ride in my big green tractor.
Okay.
Jason Aldean.
That was his song.
That was his song.
Or
and
their song, maybe.
That was his choice for first dance.
Okay.
And he hadn't really said much. He was a good old boy. Surprise, surprise. He wanted to dance to Big Green Tractor.
Yes, not a surprise.
Those of you out there know the song. If you're a country fan, it's been that many years, right? And this gets me emotional. This is the weirdest thing. This still gets me emotional when I think about this because they were in love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, maybe. So I pencil it in and I tell them, let's put it, because at some point when you're making these decisions, you got to just like, okay, pencil it in and move on. You can't just dwell on it. And they obviously talked about this in length. So, but I remember so clearly, like it was yesterday, the two of them on the dance floor and he's out there and he's just singing it, take you for a ride. And she's looking at him like, that's my man.
Yeah.
Right. And
yes.
I mean, it was beautiful. It was beautiful to see it that she was like, I'm okay with it because
I
love him.
Yes.
And if this song makes him love me and think of me and that's their song, it was amazing.
Yeah. And so that is such a great way to paint that picture, right? Yeah, you're crying.
No, it's a mess. I mean, I remember so well. It was such a powerful moment.
Though.
There are moments like that over my career, our career. I've done a lot more weddings that you haven't been at, but because we don't always work together. We work together, but like if we're at a wedding, sometimes I'm a DJ and you're a planner with either one of our other DJs or with another company.
Right.
I work with loads of other planners, but and I was doing this before you were, but man, there's a few moments that just like are just embedded. And that song will come up once in a blue moon on a dinner playlist or something. I'll have that song come on. And bam, I go right back
to that memory.
And I can't tell that story because I get emotional. I'll be telling a random photographer that I just worked with first. I can't tell it because I get emotional. I don't know why. It's weird.
I think it's very sweet. And I think it's very sweet also to think about that for you all, right? To think about those things that make your partner tick, right? And being there to support them in what they want as well. Because that's part of a marriage and it's part of a business journey too, right? So there's times in business, and we'll talk a little bit about this, where I want to go a certain direction. Okay. I like to go a lot of directions actually.
At the same time.
Nice. And this man is a little bit slower to the plate with these things, but it's the greatest yin and yang, right? Because I come up with the ideas. He sits down and says, wait, pump the brakes. Let's talk through this.
Pump the brakes. I've got 2 feet. I'm like white knuckled on the steering wheel with 2 feet on the brake. And she's looking out the window. She's looking out the window like, woo, let's go. Wild abandonment. I don't care. And I'm like, wait, let's think about this.
That's not true. So
in my head,
I mean,
that's the analogy. In my head, that's how I picture it.
It might look like that. But then we get the opportunity to do a little analysis, see if it's a good idea, if it works at the timing, the financial pieces. And we lean on that because we know that it has contributed to our success. And you can use that in your relationship, I think.
What's weird about that is I have always been a risk taker. Always. Like to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'll be at a job. I'm like, you don't know me? Like, I will quit in a minute and eat snack ramen and live out of my car because it's about life and capital and carpe diem and all that YOLO for the people that don't remember what carpe diem is.
Right.
Like, that's the modern day,
Seize the day.
YOLO is the carpe diem, seize the day. Go back and watch that Robin Williams movie. It's fantastic. But anyway, but once like becoming the second level here, the dad, man, once I became a dad, I was like, hold on, because like the kids want to eat every day, 3 times every day. It seems a bit excessive. Gosh, Bryce wants to eat like 17 times every day.
Our middle son
he's 10 going on. He's a big boy. But anyway, my point was like, I'm not living in the car as a family of 5 eating stuff. That's not going to happen. And our business, like now that we take people's weddings very seriously, right? Mm-hmm. I always say as a DJ, if I screw up a Christmas corporate party, they just don't hire me next year. One shot for a wedding. I mean, ideally, that's like they're not doing it again next year. That's like, that's their wedding day. And we take it very seriously. So that's another thing where I'm not going to just be like, man, we'll just fold up the business. How many people's wedding day would we crush if we just closed the doors tomorrow?
Who's closing the doors?
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm not a risk taker like I was.
I got you.
In the sense that I'm not jeopardizing our business and everybody's weddings. And then on our personal side, I'm not jeopardizing us and our kids and our family.
Yes. So that is just the lesson that we've learned. And it wasn't always like that. You know, we've kind of found those roles over the years as things have grown and we've changed and we've figured out that that's really where we thrive. And it's worked so well for us. And I think as we're talking through this, it just makes me think about like young couples or couples of any age that are, you know, embarking on this relationship, marriage journey. You know, it sounds weird, but like obviously in the beginning, it's all kind of like honeymoon phase, right? Like you are trying to impress the person still. You really like, you know, get bubbly and giggly when they're around. And you hope that there's still a certain amount of that as you go along. There definitely is. But in order for, I think, relationships to last, whether it be business partnerships or marriages, you have to at some point come to the reality that there's going to be bumps. There's going to be obstacles. Okay. Disagreements. And
fights. People always say, you know, it's a very common thing, either the officiant at the altar or in the best man's toast to say, so they say never go to bed angry. And I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, just stay up all night and fight. That's what that's the other side. I mean, I didn't coin that. People have said that a lot over the years, but it's always pops in my head.
We really don't fight. Like we don't have like these big blow ups. Like
not true. See this scar? I'm just kidding.
Shush. Oh my gosh. You know, and that's not to say that that's like the right way to do it. I'm just saying that that's been our way, right? We tend to go over things amicably and then move on.
Yeah, but it's also as you mature, right?
True.
Like we have a bunch of little fights rather than big fights because it's hard because that's different people operate different ways and they just bottle it up. And then finally like, raw, and you're like rage. So maybe you have no fights and then just once a month you have a epic blowout where you have to shut the windows and the neighbors are going to call the cops versus a bunch of little bickering. And I don't know. I mean,
and we're not here to say which is right or wrong.
Yeah. Everybody's got their own.
We're just giving you our experience.
Like I said, we are not marriage counselors. But the other thing that you mentioned earlier a minute ago, like pick your battles. It's not even pick your battles, but for me, like Monday morning, if I'm coming out of a 2 wedding weekend, I'm exhausted, right? Because I usually get up Monday morning and help get the kids dressed and get them to school. And you'll start some conversation. I go, and I'll know, not just pick your battles, but pick when to have your battles.
Yes.
Because if you're overtired, tired equals emotional to me. And I'm like,
short fuse.
This is not a good time.
Emotional short fuse.
Tired. Like, it's like, I'm like short tired. Fuse. I'm not as resilient as I will be on Wednesday when I've had a chance to just recover physically and emotionally and all that stuff. So I'm like, we can't have this conversation right now. Yeah. Babe. I'm like, I can feel my emotions right behind my face. I'm like,
that's such a good point.
Can we pause this conversation and have it at a better time? Because it is, especially the other thing is like, you're stressed at work or on what all these other stressors that come out, and you can't go off on your boss, but you bring that home, and then your wife goes, boop, and then all the floodgates go off on your spouse. And that's not fair, but it's not, but it happens. It's just nature's way. Like, the only person I can release this on is my wife or my kids. And God, that's my dog. But I mean, that's unhealthy. It's hard, but you got to
But doesn't that brings me to another thought too about like when we talk about supporting our partners in their strengths, it also means supporting them as an individual and allowing them to have outlets beyond the relationship. You know what I mean? Like if they have something that they like to do, or there's a stress reliever for them, whether it be maybe they ride a motorcycle and they go take a drive or whatever, like
Call of Duty,
or like you play soccer, right? Like, so it's knowing that is important to their
psychological
their well-being.
Yeah.
Right. And supporting them in that.
Yeah. Whether it's go to the gym or go for a run or go for a ride or whatever. I mean, yeah.
And this applies when you guys are going through wedding planning too. We can talk about there's good times to sit down and do your wedding planning and pick your battles when you're talking about budget and colors. And, maybe right after a long day of work is not the best time to ask your partner about these things. But maybe instead you pick to make a lunch date on the weekend and bring the binder, and you guys are a little more relaxed. You've taken yourself out of your normal comfort zone, and
Sunday morning, he wakes up and you're like, I got donuts. And you're like, oh, donuts. Well, while you're halfway through that donut,
I really want to talk about
beer burros.
Yeah. I mean, it's just fun. You've got to get creative because a relationship, a marriage is above all else, I think, a commitment, right? And what that means is like committing to be one half of a whole piece.
Ooh,
and what does that mean? What does that mean? That means you may have to do things, you may have to bite your tongue sometimes, so.
Well, that's the sign of a good relationship and eventually a good marriage is that give and take, that compromise. Sometimes if you're the person that just never compromises, that your spouse is going to have a bumpy road. I feel like it's like, because it should be. And even if they're the person that's just like, because we see this all the time in wedding planning. The bride has made every decision and the groom is just like, whatever she says, whatever she thinks. But then there'll be that one thing, whatever it is like,
beer donkeys.
I don't want, or I do want this. And then sometimes it's like, oh, now you're going to get, well, that's the only thing that he or she wanted. Like I just want that one thing. That's the only thing I really have an opinion on, whether we do a black and white wedding or you have a pink and blue. I mean, it's like,
right.
They're like, a lot of times my gender is just like, whatever you want, babe. But then there'll be the one thing, like, I really want a beer donkey.
Yeah.
Or I really want that signature drink. I
or
really
the
want
song.
the dog to be the best dog and go down the aisle with us. Yeah. Or the song. Big Green Tractor. That was his beer donkey.
Gosh, so good. I think too that, I would love to like do away with the stigma that like the bride does everything. I would love to. There's a few stigmas in the wedding industry that I would love to see go, and that's one of them. Because we do have
on the groom going down the aisle.
I was going to say, we did a series on making it about him, his day, if it's bride groom wedding, too, because they're half of this, and I think it sets the stage, right? Like for your relationship, saying like, no, this is an equal partnership. This isn't like her telling me what to do for the rest of my life. This is us being joined together as husband and wife. And that's what it looks like from now on.
Well, the attire for the day is not equal. Renting a tux versus that dress, that is not, that is one that is not equal at
I was going to say, I have seen some really fantastic tuxes.
For sure. Sometimes
really?
People buy a suit. They didn't have a suit and they bought a suit.
Embroidered on the inside, fun colors. Like, come on. But I know it doesn't compare to the dress. It doesn't compare to the dress.
The least expensive dress will be more expensive than the most expensive tux. If I had to mostly.
I'm going to ask you a question. Are you ready?
I don't know. What is this? I don't know that this was not on the.
This is not part of the plan.
Not on the schematic we drew up before this. What is this question?
Okay, so what is your favorite thing about me?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Is this a PG rating we're keeping?
Not that.
I love your. I was going to say optimism, but I'm the optimistic one more.
It's so true.
But I do love your drive. When you like lower your head and say, this is what I want. I mean, it is, as long as I'm like, okay, like there's a lot of times where the thing holding you back is me a lot of times. And once I finally say, okay, I'm like literally cutting the leash, and you're like, and you will do the research, like you'll do the work, and you'll come back and you're like, here's what I got. And I'm like, well, and I'm just like, well, did you think about it? And you're like, yes. Well, what if we do? I had to look at that. No, that's not that. I'm like, okay, so I'm just signing on the dotted line a lot of times. Because I've said this many times. A lot of you out there know me as the face of our social media because, again, knowing our roles, I'm usually the dancing monkey, but you're behind the scenes like editing and you do the hashtags and you do all the stuff behind the scenes. You know what's trending way more than what I know is trending. But if it was just me, like it started with just me as the DJ, right? And we were just kind of this budding, industry or this budding business. And you wanted to hire more DJs and I didn't. And you wanted to get into all the other social media. If it was just me, it'd be me and a Facebook page. That's what it would maybe, and it would be something barely ever got posted. But like the whole reason we blew up as the Wedding Duo was because of you. This was all your idea. So
can I go now too? That was very
am I
sweet.
Supposed to ask you what you like about me?
Yeah.
Keep it PG-13.
I love.
We're recording this just so you know.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like I will have audio and visual proof of anything you say just now. Go.
You can brighten up any room.
Me?
With your energy and your positivity and your joy of life. Like you guys, I don't know anybody on this planet who doesn't walk into a space full of strangers or who can walk into a space full of strangers and just make friends and bond and just be wonderful. I mean, you're just so good around people and you genuinely care. And
this is making me uncomfortable.
No, don't be uncomfortable because it's true. And you guys, I'm doing this as an example of 10 years down the line. We try to remember that about who we're with, right? Because it can be easy in the day in, day out stress, right? Of life and work and money and kids. And, you may not be there yet, but eventually, to like kind of forget the good things. Don't you think? And so it's really nice to hear your spouse or your partner say nice things about you and to remember kind of why you got together in the first place and reflect on all the good times and the good pieces, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. And that's when I hear those in the vows sometimes where the officiant has asked. So I asked Serena what she likes about Dominic and then whether they knew, they don't know the answer oftentimes. And then they read it. Like what he said was, your vows. Then he goes, and then I asked Dominic what he loves about Serena. And then it's a great, if you don't want to do personal vows, but you want a personal aspect of your vows, have your officiant ask you individually what you love about the other person and include that in your wedding vows. Because that is, I mean, I'm just kind of back there looking at my levels and kind of looking around, looking at my demographics. Oh, are they going to dance? What are my ages? And then when they say, if something like that comes up, well, I always listen to the personal vows because I love it. I don't listen to Corinthians 13, 1 through 13, because I've heard it a billion times. But to my point is a lot of your guests have too. But when you start talking about the two of you, those are the vows, man. People tune into that. And as I do, and I'm one step away from a stranger to these people, I mean, I know my couples, but I'm not in the family. But I love hearing about what they love about each other. It's really is a beautiful thing. Thank you. That was a very sweet thing for you to say.
Yeah. I mean, I did. I wanted to bring it back to y'all though, and tell you that it's possible. There's so much negativity in the world, just in general, but also around marriage, I think too, where it's like, we even get it sometimes. Yes. Cynical people about, on our posts, like marriage is a sham and weddings are this.
And it doesn't always work out for everybody.
It doesn't. I'm not saying that it does. It didn't work out for us the first time around.
Swing and a miss.
But there is something to be said for a successful, lasting relationship, and knowing that you have that person by your side to count on in life. And then for us, it's even in business, right? Like we are married to our business partner.
It's, this is a very personal podcast we're doing here, but let's add more little personal things. So, marriages are hard. But I got divorced because I came home one night and my wife at the time told me, I changed my mind. I don't want to have kids. And for me, good God, I mean, I love being a husband, but the dad, if you want to see your man or your person, your significant other, the transformation when you become a parent.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
If that's in the plans
there's
for you.
no preparing for that. I mean, you can prepare like, oh, we had a baby shower and we have the stuff and we painted the room and we have the crib. But the love, oh my God. I mean, it's just, I love my nieces and nephews. And I thought, I'm prepared. I'm ready when I become a dad. There was nothing to compare that. So you will see a transformation in your lives. Don't rush into it. Or I wish it upon all of you, but some of you don't want to have kids or don't want to, whatever. But I always wanted to be a dad. Like that was never a question. You ask my mom, she'll say, even when you were little, you wanted to be the babysitter. Like I have younger siblings. They learned mommy, daddy, and then me. I was the third name they learned because I was always just taking care of my younger siblings. And I was like stuck between, I don't want to be an advanced boyfriend. I want to be a dad. I want to be a family. And it just, I couldn't get past it. So that's what broke us up. And you all, I don't know if you want to share, but
yeah,
your marriage had a pretty defined moment.
It did. I had a miscarriage very early on in our relationship with my ex-husband, and I couldn't get past it. And we didn't have the what is the word? Foundation as a relationship to get through it. We really didn't. We couldn't get past it, and it was so painful, and it was too hard, and I wasn't mature enough at the time to really be able to move on with the relationship without that dragging it down. And so, these are things that happen in real life, right? And we're a lot of times on our, even us as the Wedding Duo on our podcasts, in our social media, we put on a happy face. We talk about like things as if they're always perfect and wonderful, but that's not always the case, right? And so, even in marriage, as you guys are embarking on getting married and going, things are going to happen, right? And it's really important to know that and to practice every day being kind to one another and supporting each other.
Yeah,
and communicating properly.
And just, that's all part of life, right? Because we, as a couple, have went through a miscarriage as well. And having gone, I had never been through that, but you went through it before. But it's something it's awful. It's something a lot of people have dealt with through their lives, but it's something that you grow and you build a strength, I guess.
You do.
You were better equipped when we went through it the second time, probably. I was not. Ignorance was bliss because we had our first child, then we had a miscarriage, then we had our second child. The first time I was like, la-di-da. I was like, this is fun. Yeah. We'd go to the I was making jokes about the baby and everything. And you were always kind of like, every appointment at the OBGYN where you were like, nervous because you'd been down there, bro. I hadn't. I was, and then once we had the miscarriage, then we had our third child. I was a wreck because I'd been down that road, and then it's so scary. You don't want to get excited. I'm like, absolutely. Absolutely. I almost swore right there. I was like, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It is a different, but it's a process. And if you're a team and you're stronger together than you are individually, that's a thing.
It is a thing. And we are. And we hope that for all of you. And I know that this podcast is not like our normal, fun, silly, let's give tips, but we appreciate you all. We have gotten so much positive, wonderful feedback from our listeners, from our followers. And so,
a few trolls, but there's no avoiding.
We ignore the trolls, but we really feel like it's important to share our lives with y'all too.
I'm not kidding on this one.
And if you want to hear more from us, more gushing, more crying, more fighting, more dancing, or whatever we do, you can check us out at theweddingduo.co. You can email us for more information. hello@theweddingduo.co. You can visit our shop. We've got virtual items that are helpful in your wedding planning process. You can set up a virtual planning meeting with us. But you guys, it's really about the journey. That's what I always like to say, right? Whether it's your journey of wedding planning, and then once you get married, maybe you're on a journey to have children, maybe you're on a journey to buy a house. The day-to-day is where it's at, right? Like,
It's part of the whole package, right?
yeah.
It's not always butterflies and rainbows, but there's some of that. There's a lot of that. But there's, heartache and challenges, but it's worth, the journey is worth it in the long run.
Let's just say that, right?
Let's say that. Yeah. Should we end it?
Let's do it.
It's a very personal day. It's weird to come back now. We're talking wedding stuff again. Don't let somebody talk you into something you don't want to do or talk you out of something you have your heart set on. Just do whatever feels right for the two of you.
You do you.
As a team, right?
Mm-hmm. As a team. Ready?
Ready? High five.
High five. And we'll blow a kiss. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, so thanks for listening to our podcast. If you found any of this information helpful and you know someone who may be engaged or is a maid of honor, maybe you could tell them and share it with a friend.
Absolutely. So screenshot this episode, share it on Instagram, on Facebook, and tag The Wedding Duo. We promise to share the love back. Also, if you are interested in more resources or the show notes, you can go to theweddingduo.co. We have one-on-one virtual sessions, a shop, all sorts of fun stuff. Check it out.